Hello, welcome to the Metal Voice. Yes, once again, the man, David Ellefson. What is going on, Dave?
Man, it's all going on.
It's
Having a
all
good
going
time. Tons of stuff going on.
All right.
That's what we're gonna ask you. Seems like, man, there's how many bands now that have the Ellefson brand on it?
I don't know, 5 or 6 that I know of.
Jeez, I know.
Well,
It's,
the good
growing.
news, Dave, it's October the 7th. It was released, I guess, 2-3 weeks ago. Vacation in the Underworld.
Right.
On Rat Pack Records.
Right.
And I gotta say, before I put it on, I was saying, "Oh, here comes again another project. Here we go again." But I was really, seriously blown away how good it was, and I'm sure you're getting a lot of feedback like that.
Yeah, it seems to be that, and I think we felt that way before it left, and meaning before it left the studio, before it left our hands and went out into the public to hear it. I think it's a really good record, and honestly, it's we've been sitting on it for about a year, waiting for it to come out. We finished it last year.
Mm-hmm.
By the time we contacted Joe, got the deal in place, which is pretty easy, that part of it. But then, ramping up manufacturing, there's so much stuff that was ready to come out. These COVID releases. These quarantine albums that have been coming out, a lot of people working on a lot of stuff. Vinyl manufacturing plants were backlogged with Adele and Madonna and whoever else was jamming up the runway with huge orders of vinyl. So that's just the reality of it. And, the way Rat Pack did it, they wanted to, when they advertised a bundle, they wanted the bundle to ship all at once, not just the pieces of it. So I respected that for them as a fan. That's how I would like it, and look, everything that I'm doing, I'm trying to make sure that it's quality work. I think last year, 21 started with the Lucid. And I think that was a strong record, really good quality, great material throughout.
Mm-hmm.
I tipped my hand a little bit to show everybody what we're up to with Dieth. Now that's signed to Napalm Records. So again, same thing. That's sort of bubbling away in the background. We just went out and did the Kings of Thrash tour this last week. And I think, the whole idea of those 4 shows was to prop that up, show the world what it is. I think people were excited, interested, inquisitive. Now they know. So there's more to come with that. And then, the Ellefson Soto record, which, again, is very near and dear to me as a creative work and something that I'm super proud of. And that's why we went to Italy about a month ago and we did the 3 shows because Jeff, I had caught him at a moment before he got busy in Trans-Siberian Orchestra world and everything that he's got coming up here. And I was like, hey, you know what? If we can't do a gig in our own zip code, we'll go halfway around the world and do a few and see how that works. So, and that's what we do, man. Musicians make music. So, and honestly, guys, I don't look at any of these things as projects. I'm not just like, yeah, sure, put a bullet in the gun, let's fire it. All right, another bullet, another gun. I don't view any of this stuff like this. When I get in the room with someone, or in this case, the virtual room, because it was during quarantine that we did this record.
Mm-hmm.
This record is as important as anything I've ever done. And once it comes out, you see how it's received. Our schedule's provided if we can go do more with it, or if we want to go do make another record one day. There's a lot of variables that go into that. We're not 18, fresh out of high school, ready to take on the world. We're going to dedicate our lives to this because it's us against the world, and we're at a different point in our lives, and so to make music is just as much of a passion for all of us. There's just other logistics and things that come into play, and that's the reality of it. So to me, every one of these is its own standalone thing, and the successes and the public response kind of determines the future of where they go from here.
So you cast your line out into the lake and you see what you reel in afterwards.
Yeah.
Is it a tire? What is it? Is it a fish? Is it a tire? What is it?
Exactly. It's a tire iron. Oh, what the hell, Yeah, but I think there's this mindset of like, oh, he's doing too many. It's like, says who? You know, I mean, fuck, I dedicated my whole life to one band for, you know, almost 35 years I dedicated to that. And, you know, that's more than half my life. So it's like, if I want to take another car out for a drive around the block, I'm entitled to, you know what I mean? And I'm not just doing it because I'm bored. And I'm not just doing it just to say to hell with it. I'm, you know, again, I'm passionate about these things.
Do you miss that aspect though? Do you miss it though? Like being part of you know, a group, and that's sort of more consistent, where then you could do side projects versus, you know.
Look, having, you know, it's funny, me and Mike Portnoy talked about that, the big gig fix, right? Having the big gig, you know, and he got the Twisted Sister gig, you know, which kind of fell in his lap. You know, like I said, hey, it's fun to have the big gig, you know, you're out doing all the big stuff and all that. You know, it's funny for me, because I had some people, a couple of things have come my way, and people go, oh man, you'll be back on the big stages, you'll be playing the big gig, da da da. And it's like, but since when was that the benchmark, right? The benchmark is, do you like what you're doing? Are you invested in it? You know, because, you know, and there's nothing wrong with taking sideman gigs and going out and filling in and doing things. I've done it, and I probably will do it again. You know, I'm not opposed to that at all. I tend to be a guy, I guess it's just kind of maybe my more entrepreneurial mindset. I really haven't been much the side guy. Like, I play bass for money, you know, that's just not, it's just hasn't been how it's come to me in my lifetime, you know? And, you know, I grew up on a farm. My dad was very entrepreneurial. Farming is very entrepreneurial. It has seasons, just like the music business does. So I think, to me, maybe I sort of applied that same thing to music. Is I'd rather live in a house that I built, you know, than living in a house someone else built, because I know where the bathroom is, I know where the bedroom is, you know, I know where the coffee maker is, you know. I built the house, and it's kind of done to my specs. And I'm like that with bands, you know, that I like building houses with my friends, so to speak, the musical fortress that we're putting together. Look, some of them work, some of them don't, you know, some of them could have worked.
That's the fishing analogy that Alan said.
Yeah. But, you know, and again, we're making music, man. I mean,
Absolutely.
is it good or not? Do people like it or not? I mean, it really, and just as importantly, do I like it? Do I enjoy doing it? I've been in some bands that there were some times I really did not enjoy doing it, you know, and I'm going, what the fuck? Like, what is this my future? And, you know, I call it golden handcuffs. You know, it's paying your mortgage, it's paying your bills, you're fucking entirely unhappy. You know, you hate people you're in the band with, you know, and I think anybody who's been in a band for more than 2 minutes can agree with that, because we've all been there, you know. And sometimes we get into certain gigs and we go, God, I thought it was going to be this. Maybe I've been a fan of it. And then once I'm in the room, I go, oh my God, I didn't sign up for this at all. Like, what the hell? How do I get out of this? You know, and that's no different than anybody taking a job at any freaking accounting firm or a law firm.
That's what I was just about to say.
Car dealership. You know, that, look,
we're just about to bitch about our jobs right now. No, just kidding.
Yeah, please.
No, just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah. So again, you know, it's fun. You know, I go back to the word play music. So it should be fun, play music. But when music becomes a, you know, a job, a business, an industry, well, you got to approach it like that as well. So it's always finding this balance of.
And I think Jeff's a great example of that, right? Like, you know, he's got WET, he's got Trans-Siberian, he's got his solo career. So, you know, yeah, okay, there's nothing stopping you guys from not coming back and revisiting this, although you might go and do other things in the meantime, right?
100%. I mean, look, Andy, my guitar player, you know, who with the group, we have a whole album already written. You know what I mean? It's like, we just, you know, when I was in Europe, we've already been sending stuff to each other. We got together at his place and down in Verona, went through, you know, it's funny with the Italians. You picture him at the hotel. He's like, okay, first we eat. Like, all right, so we go eat. You know, in America, it's like, we must start now, right? Because we're very disciplined and regimented, and everything's about productivity because it's the American way, right?
Have some wine.
You get over to Italy, it's like, let's eat. All right,
take a nap.
So yeah. Then we have some coffee. Now let's go get some desserts. Oh, these beautiful rolls with this, you know. So I'm like, God, now I'm stuffed. And it's like, Andy, are we going to go to the studio? Yes, we will get there soon, you know. And then we get there, and the funny thing is, by the time we got to the studio, we basically went through 6 songs in like an hour and a half. I'm like, maybe there is something to the Italian way. You know what I mean? You make music last and you make it quicker and better. I don't know. Maybe this is the right way to do it. So I have fun working in these other cultures outside of America. You know, Dieth is based in Europe. Our singer Guilherme he's Brazilian, lives in Portugal. We based the band out of Poland. And I love working, with these different cultural attitudes and mindsets. It's obviously I'm born and raised American. Bands I've been in have been American. And I got a little taste of it when I worked with Max Cavalera, because he being Brazilian, that there's different flows and tempos to these things that I appreciate when you get into different situations, different situations, work with different people like this.
What was I just want to know what the writing process, we're talking Ellefson, Soto, Vacation and Underworld. Mm-hmm. How did the writing come about and your involvement in the writing?
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, so Andy Martingelli, I brought him in when I was over in Europe doing some some solo shows that I was doing, probably 2018. And he put the band together for me to just kind of walk in and plug and play. And that basically essentially is this band that would then play on the Ellefson Sleeping Giants record on some stuff, played on, and then we toured that a bit in 2019. And then 2020, we did the Ellefson No Cover record. And so this band, very much was the kind of the house band for that. And so Andy, in a large way, became really my musical director. I could sort of send things to him, send ideas to him. He could he's got the patience to sit at, it's funny, over here in America, we were largely Pro Tools dominant. Over there, it's Cubase. It's a different platform, but it's all, digital audio workstation. Yeah. So Cubase is very dominant over there in Europe. And so he just throws everything in Cubase and he kind of organizes it, keeps track of my ideas and kind of outlines things. And I always invite him to collaborate. And, sometimes my idea might be a little too 1992 and he makes it a little more 2022, can make it a little more modern, which I like because he's a younger guy. So I like that. So, as we rolled into 2021, we were starting to write this material that would become Vacation in the Underworld. And he encouraged me to reach out to Jeff for the vocals and to, have a new collaboration with somebody. And by the time Andy and I were essentially sending our stuff to Jeff first, and he was kind of just singing our stuff on it. And he said, he goes, look, I really don't want to, I said, this is going so well that he said, I'd rather this be more of a collaborative idea than you hiring me to sing. I said, great, it's music to my ears, because I think we'll get more done and it'll be more of our record if it's not just sort of me paying a singer, so I'm glad he had that kind of all for one for all mindset with it. And we joked about, we love on the back, like the Van Halen records, all songs written by Van Halen, like we're all in, right? And that was the mindset. So then Jeff, really started to collaborate more on the certainly he was always there with vocal melody stuff, but even on lyrical things, and just saying, Jeff, I want you to be part of the story, not just me and Andy writing lyrics. So that really turned the corner, and it became our record. And
are you guys going to tour? I mean, is this a tourable record?
It's certainly tourable. That's why we started in Italy, because the band, our band essentially that recorded this is in Italy. So it's the real band, Mm-hmm. But knowing Jeff's got TSO coming up, and I my schedule's a little bit more flexible. I've got things that I'm doing, but I could find little windows in there. The realities of touring are very different. America, it's a very different world to tour in. Are you going to go out as a support act? Go out and support Anthrax or Black Label Society or one of those kind of tours? Now you're out for 6 weeks. You're going to be first of three. Are you willing to sort of accept that, what that is? Obviously playing to large crowds and that kind of cool thing. And I'm just using them as an example. Was never a tour that we discussed, but using it as an example to go out with friends. Or, do you go out on your own and play little 500 seat rooms on your own and kind of be your own, kind of start it from scratch. So, those are kind of the realities of this. And, I'm always game for doing it because, I love gigging, I love playing, and especially with my friends and to our fans. So to me, I love doing it. It's just a matter of, kind of finding this moment in the schedule to do it. So we'll see what 2023 has in store. And like I said, Andy and I are always working on new material and, getting some things kind of teed up. And, with the success so far, people really seem to like our sound. So that's kind of the thumbs up to say,
thumbs up you need. Yeah.
Maybe we should swing for another one. So we'll see how it turns in the new year.
Yeah.
I would definitely hope there'd be a second one. I mean, what I like about this sound, you're listening to stuff like Vacation in the Underworld, which is very, very heavy. And then you got something like Out of the Blue, which is literally out of the blue. I mean, it's something that really stands out on the album. You're kind of wondering, where does this come from?
Well, then the reason,
it's funny.
And you're thinking, wait a second, now we're getting into like super melodic metal-ish sound, right?
Yeah.
It's got a, and then there's thrash, right? Yeah. Right at the end. So, yeah.
Thrash with some bass licks.
Rise to Win, right? That's like some serious bass tuning. There's some bass line there. Yeah,
yeah.
I kind of thought maybe Jeff Scott Soto would have been a perfect fit for this, new group you have, the Kings of Thrash. He seems to fit well in the thrash mold too.
Well, he does, and it's funny with him that, as we were touring Italy, he goes, I'm kind of the most metal guy there is, as he's referring to Queen and Sam Cooke and Motown, and which, was great for me to, be working with a singer who's so known to us rockers and metalheads as this metal guy, and yet in his mind he doesn't consider himself a metal guy, because to him Rising Force with Yngwie, that was about 40 years ago, so that was like a lifetime ago to him. He's done so much other stuff that has not been metal, and I told him, I said, dude, in our world, like, you are the fucking metal guy, right? And like to Andy, that's why Andy hit me. He goes, dude, over here in Europe, I mean, come on, I am a Viking. I mean, he is the reigning fucking king of power metal. I mean, over here, because Europe, there's a big power metal movement that I'm a huge fan of. And, and he's like the Elvis of that whole thing. Yet in his mind, I don't think he views it like that. So to me, this record was bringing Jeff back to kind of probably where the, three of us on this call would agree, like, fuck, that's the Jeff Scott Soto we grew up with.
Yeah.
So to me, I'm kind of proud that we kind of placed him back as the crown jewel in the middle of a genre for us.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with all that, man. Whatever happened to KK's Priest? I mean,
it's funny today. I just sent him an email because it's his birthday today. So happy birthday, KK. I don't know when this is coming out, but happy birthday.
KK's steel mill, right? There was you were there, right?
Yeah.
You're playing along with him, and then suddenly it had momentum. He comes out with an album. Did you ever get that call saying, "Hey, Dave, we need a bassist here," or
if you have nothing else to do,
No, I don't know. Well, it's funny. KK and I were friends on the Painkiller Rust in Peace tour back in 1990. That was where we connected. Of course, I'm a huge fan of him. I mean, that cover of Unleashed in the East is forever emboldened in my mind as just the quintessential fucking heavy metal rock god, So, and I just love the guy. We got along well, and so it's funny because I hit him. It was 2019. I was coming through on the Ellefson solo tour, and we were promoting the More Life with Death book. And we've been talking, we were on the phone and emailing, and I hit him. I said, dude, can I do a signing at your venue? And he said, sure. And I said, would you want to join me? Because his book had come out, not maybe in the same year, I think, right? And I said, hey, you want to come up and jam a tune? Like, you want to play Living After Midnight or something? And it just he goes, right, well, I'll see, I'll consider it, And then next thing you know, I have a friend here in Phoenix that was working with KK on some building project stuff, and that's kind of how we got reconnected. And his name is Todd. And he goes, come on, we got to make this happen. So he goes, I'll fly Ripper over. So next thing you know, we're putting a band together, and then Ripper's in the mix, and we do a phone call, me and Ken, and Ripper and Todd and I think Ripper brought up, he goes, dude, why don't we get Les Binks to play drums? I'm like, dude, Les Binks, are you kidding me? Is he still around? And he goes, oh yeah, he's got his little cover band thing he does. I'm like, come on. Like, so we're fucking recreating Unleashed in the East right in front of my eye. And I'm just like, fuck, I can just die and go to heaven now. This is going to be the best, you know? And it's, as it turns out, I guess Les and Ken had been friends, but they had not played together since the Unleashed in the East album. And I got the backstory from Les. We were having a curry down the street from the steel mill, and he told me the whole story about how he was this sideman musician, and him and Simon Phillips were kind of the guys in London getting most of the calls. And Simon had played on Sad Wings of Destiny, or Sin After Sin, right? So Les is in the band. They did Stained Class. They're doing Hellbent for Leather tour, which is the Unleashed in the East live album. And I guess he walked in and saw a remote truck and microphones, and I was like, well, it calls management, says, hey, new album, I got to get paid more. It turned into one of these things, and Ken talked about it in his book, that's where they had the falling out over it. And it wasn't really so much the band. I think it was kind of more management, and that was the end. He played on the record, and that was the part.
Yeah, we interviewed him about a year ago, and he told us the story.
Yes, he told the story. Yeah, so
they got the same.
So
story,
I'm sitting with Les having a curry, hearing the whole thing after we had just sound checked or we had just rehearsed and run through the tunes. I'm going, fuck. Like, I mean, I'm such a Judas Priest fan. I mean, Kiss and Priest. I mean, they're maybe Maiden, three bands that are just my fucking be all end all. So I'm just sitting here getting this history and I'm just going, what a moment that between, me, just knucklehead wanting to do a book signing. Suddenly we're putting the band back together and we're getting ready to go on stage the next night. And we're in the room and we do a little huddle and kind of the dude huddle before we go on stage, and football huddle. And I'm just going, man, this is the first time Ken and Les have played together since Unleashed in the East, my favorite album ever. Right. And it's happening tonight because of this. We're all bringing it back together. And it was just such a great moment of reconnecting friends, musicians. I'm just the fan, in the room. Ripper's there. We know Ripper's story, of course, with Priest. And it was just magic, man. I mean, it was literally freaking capturing lightning in a bottle, man. I mean, it was just unbelievable as a moment. So, and obviously we wanted it. If you wanted it to keep happening,
Yeah. If you got the call, would you go back?
Of course. I mean, it was never, look, that was just basically, I played my show. I literally ran upstairs, changed the t-shirt, did the huddle, went right back down stage, and then played an whole night of Judas Priest songs. I mean, literally, I played 2 concerts that night, my Ellefson solo band, and then with KK and the guys. And as we came off stage, we walked upstairs and I was going, God, I said to Ken, I go, I would pack your suitcase, dude. I think there's going to be calls for this. I think we're going to get more of this. And then as I continued through South America on my solo tour, man, I mean, every city I landed in, they were like, welcome to Peru, David. When can we book you and KK? I mean, just like, it was like, when can photos ringing in Japan? And so, I think look, I was so happy. Dave,
I would assume like you didn't take that gig when you did the album and because of Megadeth, right? Now that you're free of that commitment.
Sure. Yeah. Right. Well, and KK knew that. KK's like, look, David's busy in Megadeth, and I said, listen, well, yeah, of course we've got stuff going, of course, but I told him, I said, look, I do have these windows of time, and like he wanted to be free to go to just kind of do his own thing. That gig was not formed to create KK's Priest. KK's Priest formed out of that once I think, and I'm proud to have been a brother and a friend to KK to go, come on, dude, you're not done. Like, you may have retired from Judas Priest, but you ain't fucking done playing guitar. You're a rock star until the day you die. Get the hell out here. Let's play. And I think he once just seeing him on stage, he was just lit up. I was like, yeah, man, that's my rock star right there. And that's why we'll forever be friends, just from that alone, is just knowing that, as that's what we do. We get on stage, we rock, and people are happy. The fans are stoked. And, so for him to form KK's Priest as his own creative vision, I think he needed to do that. He needed a record that said, hey, I'm not done. I'm Judas Priest too, and we all know that, but I think for him, he needed to just state that, and so good for him. He did it, and it's cool, and there'll probably be more, and so there it goes. And look, the answer, of course, I'll play with KK anytime. I love the guy, and I love playing with him anytime we can.
I just finished the Rob Halford's second book, Biblical, and he was saying how that album cover for Unleash the East, they all just went down to the local theater, set up the lights. That's why there's no drums there, because they just forgot to take pictures while they were
because Les quit before. Right? I don't even know if we're supposed to say anything, Alan.
Yeah, no, he did. He walked away. He quit. Yeah, over that discrepancy, over the, and again, like it sounded like it was more with management. And it was sad, it's a bummer.
Spoiler alert, Dave. Rob reveals everything about recording that album in his new book.
Nice. Hey, well, what about you, Dave? You read all these autobiographies? I mean, as a fan, I do, but, like some people say, I live it. I don't need to read about it.
Well, when I read them, and I read all, in fact, I just finished Eddie Van Halen Eruption, the one that Brad Tolinsky and Chris Gill wrote. And Brad gave me a copy of it at NAMM last year. And I mean, I freaking savored every word of that. I mean, Van Halen, okay, 4 bands, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Kiss, and Van Halen, right? So there they are. And I mean, I didn't want the book to end. I was just literally savoring every word of it. And what I realized is on some level, we're all in the same band. We've all been in the same band. The dynamics of the personalities, the crash and burn, the drugs, the this, the that, the money, whatever the story is, on some level, we're all in the same band. And it's kind of the same personality types that make up these groups. And so, I enjoy reading them to just confirm, okay, I'm not crazy. We've all fucking lots of times people ask that because I work with my friends, and my friends all happen to be pretty famous too, because we all grew up together. At one time we weren't famous, we were just dudes getting started, and then our careers have done well, and so we call each other to work on stuff. So when I read these books from Rob is a friend and a neighbor, lives here at least part-time in Arizona, in Phoenix, so and it's so when you read these books, you're just kind of like, oh my God, they did that too. Oh my God, they had that fucking manager that did that too. Oh my God, I can't believe. Then the drummer did this. Oh my God, you know what I mean? So it's just like, we live a parallel universe in most of our bands.
Is the Kings of Thrash, how serious is that band? I mean, Chris Poland, I guess, kind of Chris Poland. Well, Jeff Young especially, right? Mm-hmm. How serious are you guys to make? I guess you're writing music now, right? That you're going to record a record. Is that it?
Yeah. I mean, actually we're mixing, the tracks that we recorded at the Whiskey.
Okay.
I got the shirt even too while I was there, but our last show that we did, the idea was to just do 4 shows, which started obviously San Diego, Phoenix, Las Vegas, and the Whiskey in LA. And it really built to a crescendo because people were excited. They wanted to see what it was, and then now they know. And so we recorded and filmed the Whiskey show, and there's a ton of great fan footage out there. So we're mixing that and editing that and considering what the next step is with that. At the same time, Jeff and I have written and demoed up 4 songs, and we did that earlier this year, actually. So we've got both existing content and new songs that we have. And I mean, look, Jeff is, I gotta tell you, man, he is all
incredible.
This guy's incredible. Yeah, and I had the workload that he did, man. I mean, he was learning guitar parts from frickin' 3 guitar players, and his skill level is incredible, of course. And I just invited Chris in. As funny thing, when I had the idea to do something like this, which was about a year ago, after I appeared at the Chiller Theater autograph show, October 21. And I always knew the Killing Is My Business record needed to be played live. And I presented it when I was in the band. Yeah. It kind of got half saluted, and then it sort of got dismissed. And I'm like, man, I'm telling you, that fucking record is the sleeper cult classic of the catalog, and it deserves its day in front of the crowd, And so to me, that was kind of like a life mission. And the other record is So Far So Good So What, because those two, they, especially So Far, kind of fell between Peace Sells and Rust in Peace, which are always these big celebrated records. So I actually called Chris. I said, dude, we should run out and play Killing and Peace Sells. And we had a good laugh. And he called me back an hour later. He goes, oh my God, I don't think I have the energy to do it. There's no fucking way. I've got an Ohm record. I got this. I said, listen, we'll see how it comes. If it ever swings our way, we'll do it. So as Jeff and I got reconnected through the Nick Menza documentary back in January, and then went to the studio and started writing, put these tracks down. Then in May, got the call to appear at the Ultimate Jam Night with this tribute to the Big Four that they did. He and I got on stage and played, what did we play? Darkest Hour, Mary Jane, and Peace Sells, I think. That's really what confirmed my idea last year that, yeah, this needs to happen. And Jeff was so excited because, he got a raw deal, man. You know what I mean? He did a lot. He did a lot on that.
I've watched interviews with Jeff, and Chris Pollins has been on this show, and he's kind of given his explanation of how it all went down. But right. What were your recollections of Jeff Young in and out of the band?
So he came in, brought in by Jay Reynolds, who was my dear friend, and I had recommended him to, as the guitar player for the band, because we were close and we were hanging, and me and Dave and we all got along. But we realized pretty quickly that this was a gig of a nature that Jay was not. That's not where his skill set lies, right? He's just a different kind of guitar player, and it became pretty apparent as we got into it. So he knew Jeff, and he called Jeff for assistance. Well, eventually we just called Jeff to come in and lay down what initially was these 4 solos for what was it? Mary Jane, Darkest Hour, Liar, and Hook and Mouth. Well, now that I've been part of this Kings of Thrash process and now see how much work Jeff did. I mean, he played guitar on, I think, pretty much every song, as well as all the acoustic guitar work you hear on the record. He did all that. He did an incredible amount of work. And I told him, I said, dude, I got to be honest with you, dude. I did not know how much work you did. I thought you came in and just sort of blew 4 solos and that was it. He's like, are you fucking kidding me?
I think at the time, I don't know, the drug use, maybe it just seems like time flies totally. A lot faster, right?
Well, and plus the record was moving along. We were on a schedule like this record. We got to get this thing done. I mean, Penelope Spears is in there filming Darkest Hour. It's part of a documentary. There's a film coming out. There's a tour coming up. We got our deadline with Capitol Records. So, I mean, by the time Jeff got there, it was like, dude, we got to freaking get this shit moving. We got to get to work. And Jeff's skill was great. He was not on drugs as the rest of us were. And he worked very efficiently. He was very aware. And Jeff was not a druggie. I mean, by nature, when it's around, you partake, of course, a little bit. But, he was not a junkie. He was not a druggie. And it just came to pass that, that lineup wound down. I mean, look, I was the first guy to go to rehab back we played Donington in '88.
I mean, he left, from my understanding, is because he wasn't a druggie, right? Because he didn't want to be around that environment, at least my understanding.
Yeah, it was pretty toxic. I mean, it was dark and honestly, I don't remember who left, fired, what, and it doesn't even matter. Who cares? It doesn't matter. That whole era had to end, right? The drugs, the dope, just the MO of all of it. And it got rebooted and reconfigured by mid 1989 when Ron Lafitte came in to manage us. We brought Nick Menza in. And that was the reset, that eventually became Rust in Peace. And, then the rest is history. So, I
guess what I'm trying to say is I'm really happy that you reunited with Jeff Young because he's a huge talent. That's what I'm trying to say.
He's an incredible talent. And you know what? Look, first of all, he's doing the work. He's not phoning this in. He's not just showing up saying, hey, man, I deserve. He's not any of that, man. I mean, this guy is so detail oriented. He's so into the process. he's all about analog. He's like, dude, we're analog creatures. That's why digital music sucks. It's why it doesn't resonate with people, because we're analog, and I mean, he's like way deep into just kind of the mechanics of music, and he spares no time or expense getting the best quality results. And I mean, he put the time in on this thing, man. I was off doing some other things. I'd go to LA, we'd rehearse, we'd tighten things up. I knew parts of songs in a way that I would fine tune details of riffs and stuff. And I mean, he whipped everybody into shape and ran a tight ship and got that thing tightened up and sounding as good as it does. So, he's deserving of all the credit.
We were joking with you earlier about all the bands, and I'm listening to this album and I come across on YouTube a video of a cover with you and Jeff, with our good friend Rick Hughes doing a cover of Riot's Sort of Tequila. What's up with that?
So funny, yeah. Thanks for mentioning that. And we got introduced to Sword, Rick Hughes' band, back on the Peace Elves tour. We had a Canadian sound man who introduced us to him. So we'd listen to that song "Stoned Again" all the time. That was like the theme song of the Peace Elves tour. And
you think?
So yeah, you think, right? So the Metalized album is fucking great, man. It's such a great record. So then became friends with Rick in recent years. And as we were recording and writing the Ellefson Soto records, I came up with the idea. I love Riot. I love that song. I said, why don't we do this? I think it's a good fit for us. We did it. I said, let me call Rick, kind of do a duet. This was, again, keep in mind, this was quarantine era where everybody was doing these one-off collaboration, iPhone video, kind of fucking Foursquare videos, and
like this show.
So we did. Yeah, right. And so so we did, and we pushed it out, and like Jeff said, he goes, I think this is a good way to kind of tip our hands that we're working on something. And again, people seem to really like it, and it was a cool song. And that it kind of tipped the hand, like, this is pretty cool, and there's probably more where this comes from.
Well, stay tuned, Dave, because we're going to meet with Rick and the whole band. And they're coming with their third album after X amount of years, and we're going to be interviewing them soon enough on the show. Excited to hear their third album. So
totally, dude, those guys are quality work, man. They look great, they sound great, they've taken care of themselves, and in fact, actually, they'd be probably the best band to play with.
You know what? Actually, I was going to say that you guys together as a sort of package.
Yeah.
Wow. Wouldn't that be phenomenal?
Yeah. And we'll let them headline.
Because you like Metalized. Here's a band that comes out of Montreal. 2 little albums, right? The second one, maybe it was even hard to find back in the day. What makes that first album so special? Because it is like a cult classic.
You're referring to Metalized, right?
Yeah.
That record. Right. Yeah. It had a great sound. It's funny. It sounded big, almost like a hair metal record. Right. And Rick, the way he sang, had kind of this Malice, Wasp, it was big. It had a big sound to it. Right. And I referenced those singers because they had big vocal sounds. Right. And the production quality was really good. I mean, you Canadians, let's face it, just kind of as a broad stroke, the quality of what you do is always a cut above, in my opinion. It really is. The quality of the recordings. I mean, everything from Rush to Loverboy to April Wine, more recently Nickelback. I mean, the quality of stuff is great, And Nickelback has made great records. Fuck that. I'm not down with anybody who makes fun of them. Fuck them. Those guys. Silver Side Up was a great record. I loved it. I thought it was a super cool album. Say what you will about the rest of it, but they're quality product. You know what I mean? So, but again, I was a big April Wine fan, especially Harder, Faster. The one before that with Roller and all that stuff. I mean, I love
First Glance.
Yeah.
You're talking about my top 4 now. It used to be Iron Maiden, April Wine, Van Halen. I can't forget
Triumph.
And Triumph. Exactly. Like, and of course, look, for me, it all started with Randy Bachman with Not Fragile, Bachman Turner Overdrive. I mean, that's the downbeat for me. We wouldn't even be having this conversation if it weren't for your fellow Canadian Randy. So, which is great. So, and his son Tal, it's funny, me and Tal became buddies, and I love that first record or I guess that one record that he did with the song "She's So High." Super great record.
Decades ago.
So,
yeah.
Okay, back to Sword.
Yes, that's right. That's where we started.
So Sword 3 is coming out. I'm going to plug Sword 3. You've heard Sword 3. I'm sure you've heard it.
Please plug it. Please, by all means. Yeah.
It's coming out, and we've heard it. I know Alan's heard it. We're going to go meet Rick and the boys in Montreal at their jam room this weekend. We're going to go do a whole big Metal Voice plug.
The original band.
Band.
Right? I mean,
well, please tell them hello. And by the way, let's not skip Exciter since it's on your T-shirt, because that was the Killing Is My Business tour. Was Exciter on? God, what was the record?
It was
Long Live the Loud, or
no, it was before Long Live the Loud. It was Violence and
Violence and Force.
Heavy Metal Maniacs.
Was it, or Violence and Force? Maybe
Heavy Metal Maniacs was the first one. Yeah. This was 1985. So I think it might have been Violence and Force. Violence and Force.
I just remember they had that great song they'd play every night, Pounding Metal. That was so fucking good, man.
Off the second.
I'd literally, no matter how drunk I was after the Killing Is My Business show, I'd go outside. I'd always watch them and play Pounding Metal, man. It was such a great. They were, look, they were the headliners, and they were
crazy.
They were a step or two above Megadeth, and they kind of showed us the ropes a little bit. It was a great tour.
And this being the Metal Voice, we have to mention, like we try to get in every show, Anvil.
That's right. Love Anvil.
Just because you have to, right?
That's because
Love Anvil.
It's in our contracts.
It's in our contracts. That's right. Lips is great. The band's great. What I want to say, I just forgot my train of thought. We were talking about Sword so much, I couldn't remember.
I know.
Okay.
Well, then we switched to Exciter. So
then we that's right. Kings of Thrash. Lost my train of thought.
Well, I'll say this. So the two guitar players, and really three, because Chaz, our singer, is a fantastic guitar player. And I mean,
is Chris Poland part of that Kings of Thrash as a sort of member, or is he just jumping in as a guest?
He is a member, and he's performing whenever we can have him. And I say that because he does have a day job at home. He's got his family, and he was very clear. He just said, look, to go out and kill it for 6 months on the road, I'm not going to be able to do it. I've got some other responsibilities, but I love this. I think it's super fun. And, to watch Chris's just aura light up, because, he left the group and he went off and did his other things. He's been very happy with Ohm and doing that. As we all know, he's really a terrific fusion guitar player, and his fusion playing inside of a metal context, like on Killing and Peace Cells, is what really made him shine, made the group shine, right? And I tell you what, man, when even at the sound check or at the shows, man, when Chris plugs in, he plays one note and all heads turn. You go, what? Who is that? I mean, he still hasn't, man. I mean, Chris is one of the greats in the level of Eddie and Jeff Beck and the greats. Randy Rhoads, he's that guy, one note, and Chris is in the house, and I think that's what makes the Kings of Thrash, the three guitar players on the stage, including our singer Chaz. Everybody has a place, and it really just is a really great chemistry.
At the Metal Hall of Fame, when Chris Poland played alongside with Joe Satriani and Steve Vai, you just hear he's at that level.
He is.
He is at that level, and he's and we're talking about like just a few years ago now. He is. That's how good he is, and people need to know more about that, right?
I think he's gotten better over the years, and I don't know what it is. Look, he's obviously taking care of himself. He's healthy, but his touch on the guitar, there is something about the way he touches the instrument, and I've worked with other great artists like this myself, but there is something about. It's almost like the person fades back and some entity channels through them and the notes come out. I mean, it's such a blessing to stand next to that and watch that happen, because it's truly magic, man. And it's beyond human.
You know what he said on the Metal Voice? He goes, it was what a great line. He goes, I was busting tables, and while Peace Sells was out there and so popular, but I was still busting tables at Denny's. And
Right.
it's and it kind of like it shows you that no matter how much success you have, you just couldn't, get over that hump of quitting the day job kind of thing, right? Because it's tough, the music industry. That's what the message is.
Well, and Chris made a hard turn. He's talked about it, but he got clean. Left the group, got clean, went out and played bass for the Circle Jerks in a van, and he always joked, he goes, here I am playing bass for the Circle Jerks, traveling in a van. I made more money than being on Capitol Records with Megadeth.
That's the point. So, there you go. That's
the point, right?
Yeah.
And so Chris has had a very diverse career. I mean, he's a great bass player. I mean, man, that guy, he would pick up a bass, any bass in the room, and again, Jaco Pastorius would just channel through this guy. You're like, what is with this guy, man? I mean, he is just plugged into a freaking aura outside of our universe, man. It's incredible.
All right. I think, is there anything else you want to plug while we're at it? I mean, have you heard the new Megadeth album? Like, what are your thoughts?
Of course, I played on it. I played on it. Of course, I heard it. Yeah.
that Ellefson touch?
I heard bits and pieces of it as it was being put together. Obviously, vocals and lyrics and things like that. I do not own a copy of the new one, nor will I. Honestly, once I was let go, I moved on and I didn't look back. Again, I'd already performed on.
I was pretty upset, Dave. I was pretty upset when.
Well, I think a lot of people were, and but for me, it's like, all right, well, move on. I've been here before. I've been out with Megadeth once before. Everything worked out fine. I think the difference was this time. The first time I'd only done Megadeth for almost 20 years. So when it ended, it was a pretty abrupt. The plane fell from the sky pretty freaking hard, for everybody. This time, I was prepared for it, and the transition. I mean, look, we didn't work very much in the last 5 years I was in the band anyway. That album took almost 5 years to get it together and get it out. So honestly, I'd been already working on a bunch of other stuff. I'd been doing Ellefson solo records, playing on other records. I worked with Al Jorgensen Ministry. I wrote books. So my creative thing was really up and running in motion. So it's kind of like, well, one gig went away. Oh, well, next, move on, and I didn't, I don't have time to sit around and get all butthurt about it. I just fucking moved on, and that I think kind of just keeps me positive and moving forward. And, I think what we're doing with Kings of Thrash is, we're honoring the legacy in a way. I'm kind of trying to keep my arms around the legacy and keep it kind of pulled together, because it's all of ours to share. It belongs to everybody. It's not just any one person's legacy. We're all there. We all created it. We're all part of it. And you can hear it, especially with Kings of Thrash. You go, my God, there it is. Like, that's the sound. And especially to bring in a couple of new guys like Fred Aiken on drums and Chaz on guitar. They're young. They appreciate it. They support it. I'm grateful that the fans, are there to support it. I listen to them. I hear what the fans are asking for, and I tried to get a bunch of those songs in the set for the last 5 years, and it just didn't happen. And I'm like, well, I know the fans want to hear these songs. You know what? Fucking, I'll go out and play them with my friends, and we'll have a great time doing it, and we'll have fun, and we'll make the fans happy. And at the end of the night, that's the ultimate high five.
Well, I think the idea of Sword and David Ellefson, or Kings of Thrash, or Ellefson and Soto, I think that's the package. That, my friend, is the package.
Your mission, my friend, is to put that together at the rehearsal room.
So this weekend, we're going to talk to Rick. We're going to get him on the horn. He's going to get you on the horn, and I think something magic can
make it happen.
There.
Dude, you're the matchmaker. Let's do it. Yeah.
The dreamer.
Yeah.
Alan?
We're dreams. So dreams are made of.
Oh, actually, I wanted to ask you this, since we have you. What do you remember from the time of the early stage of Megadeth, when John from Agent Steel was in the band? Do you remember that period?
And then, of course, Juan Garcia, who's now in Body Count, but was in a band called Abattoir, who we took up north with us in San Francisco when we debuted the band. John was we were trying to find singers. So 1983, we were looking for guys and the other guitar player. We had played a little bit with Jim from Dark Angel. Once Kerry King came in, that kind of sealed that. Kerry really understood the music. He felt it. He knew it. And then, I remember it was New Year's Eve. We were downtown. I drive by it now all the time on the I-5. It's called the Brewery. If you're driving south, on this side is the brewery, on that side is General Hospital, like the TV show, like LA County Hospital. No, it's the brewery and the county hospital. And we used to rehearse in there. There was a guy, Curly Joe. He was in a band on Scotty Brothers Records. He had this rehearsal place. It's where we rehearsed. We wrote a lot of tunes there, and we were waiting for yet another singer to show up. And he flaked out. And I remember Dave took a sheet of music and he taped it up to like the mic stand or something. I think there's a picture of us actually of him singing, right? And it was like Chosen Ones or something, right? And he sang and we ripped through the tune, and he almost passed out because he was trying to breathe and sing and do this whole sort of gymnastic thing that you would do playing that, singing that. And I mean, I was just like, dude, that was fucking awesome, and he was looking at me like, fuck you. I hate you. You're crazy, right? I said, no, dude, I'm telling you, that was the shit. I said, you're writing the stuff. I said, no one's going to understand this. Because I watched Dave try to explain it to other singers. And, most of these guys, they come in with coiffed hair and scarves and you're trying to be, some Sunset Strip kind of singer. And it's like, man, you're not going to get this at all. This is not up your alley. And so, for Dave to sing his own story and to tell his own story and sing his own words, it was the only way forward. Once he sang, it was obvious, at least to me. And so, he bit the bullet and the singer. And, and I learned a lot from that because, the truth of it is one thing I learned from Dave singing is it doesn't matter about the vocal gymnastics and how wonderful of a singer you are. It's about, can you convey the story and can you deliver it with conviction? And that is one thing Dave could always do, So, now as I work with other singers, be it the amazing Jeff Scott Soto, Vin from Sponge and Lucid. I mean, these are guys who, they tell a story through their voice. They're kind of like voice actors, they really deliver the goods.
All right.
So coming at you like a bullet, we've got Ellefson, Soto, Vacation in the Underworld. I highly recommend checking it out. It's a great album, and we're anxious to see a second one somewhere down the road, that's for sure.
And we should say the day before tomorrow, right when you thought it was going metal, it kind of went a little proggy there with the violins and the female vocalist, and it's just going off on all directions, but it's still maintaining that metal sort of root.
It is. And, thank you for mentioning that song. That's one that's kind of near and dear to me.
We do our homework here, David. We do our homework.
I know. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
We don't just say we listen to it a few minutes.
Not just pretty faces.
Well, you wear black T-shirts and you're metalheads. That's why
right.
you do the deep
and we're
dive,
in our 50s. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's funny because with that song, I listen back to it because I just kind of listen to the record as a fan now myself. I just put it on and go, all right, do I still like it? And I do, and that's a track that always I'm kind of astounded at how developed the arrangement is and all of the layering of the instrumentation. And I hit up my friend Giada, who sings with a great power metal band called Frozen Crown over in northern Italy, and because it needed the male female counterpart, like kind of like a Broadway thing. It's sort of a story, they need almost like an opera. It needs to be told through the story of the male female vocal thing. So it was not, it's nice to just take all the limits off, that because sometimes it's a thrash record and it can only be this and it's got to sound, it's got to be within this box. This record was not in any box at all, and I think that's why
it's funny,
it came out so well.
Like I saw the name Hercules and I go, wait a second, are these guys going all Sabaton on us here? But it's just sort of like a bass, sort of like it's a little instrumental, right?
It is. It's just a little instrumental. In fact, I was just playing it in the studio. I was recording based on one of these songs. I forgot which one. And I just started playing it. And I John Aquilino from Icon, who you guys probably are aware of, he has a killer studio here in town. So I record there all the time. And And I said, John, fucking give me a click track. We're like right there. Okay. He pulls click up and fucking hit the red button right now. I just want to record this. And it was just an idea. And I didn't know what to do with it. I sent it to Andy, and then he added all the guitar swells and these things, a little keyboard thing on it, and I'm done. I don't know what the hell we're going to do.
Andy's a great guitarist too. I got to say, right, Alan? Andy, that's some very a nice tone to his guitar, as well as some nice, memorable solos. You know,
he's a real ferocious guitar player, but he's also a textured guy. He's an educated musician, so he can pretty much do anything, you know. And he's great. I mean, he sits up there in the category in the league of guitar players I've been blessed to work with in my career, for sure.
I think we kind of gone through everything here. We talked about the Kings of Thrash. We talked about KK's Priest. We talked about Sword. We talked about
Canadian. We went all over the place.
Our favorite Canadian
to London,
bands.
To Canada.
That's right. We came all the way back to Italy.
Italy. That was awesome. It's like a geographical, musical, historical showcase right there.
That's right. All right,
Dave, it's always a pleasure to have you. You're always welcome at any time to be on the show. And again, we're just spoiled to have you again on the show.
Cool. Thanks, Alan. Thanks, Jimmy. Say hello to Sword.
Yep.
See each other
Will
soon.
do.
All right. Bye.
Happy holidays.
Thanks.
See ya.
Have a good one.